So yes, today we'll be talking about the master gland of the body that is called as your pituitary gland, right? Pituitary, I don't know what to call it, right? But then this gland is actually controlling most of the functions of your body, and therefore this is called as the master gland of the body. So the two systems which are actually regulating the entire body, that is your endocrine system and the nervous system, this comes under the endocrine system. The ductless glands, which are pouring their secretions directly into the blood, they are called as these endocrine glands. So the gland which is controlling almost all functions of your body, that is your pituitary gland, also controlling other glands. Now here you can see it is found in the bony cavity of your sphenoid bone. You remember we had seen that skull, and in that we had seen that sphenoid bone, and there is a cavity called as this sella turcica. So there is this particular cavity, and in this sella turcica this pituitary gland is located, right? And it is attached to your hypothalamus with the help of a stalk. So you have that brain, you remember that you have brain. So that brain, if you see, like it has that forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. In forebrain we saw the prosencephalon, which you call, which was having your cerebrum, then it was having that diencephalon. So the base of this diencephalon, that is hypothalamus, right? So that hypothalamus with the help of the stalk is connected to this particular pituitary, and therefore people are very worried about your mental state. Today we have agreed that even your NCRT says ki the mental state, it is actually controlling your nervous and the endocrine system. So maybe because they are all interconnected, right? The hypothalamus is the part of your brain that is controlling your pituitary, and this is controlling everything now, right? So this particular pituitary basically has two parts: the adenohypophysis, and the neurohypophysis. So it is anterior pituitary, you can say, and the posterior pituitary, which we call as neurohypophysis. So pituitary basically has two parts now: adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. Adeno has two parts: pars distalis and pars intermedia. The major being pars distalis. So intermedia, like in humans, you can say like intermedia is merged with the distalis. There is also something called as tubularis, but we are going to stick to your 11th NCRT. So therefore it is only pars distalis and intermedia. Intermedia is intermingled with your distalis. So therefore this distalis is your anterior pituitary, you can say. So pituitary to anterior and posterior, right? So the anterior one is adenohypophysis and the posterior one is neurohypophysis. Anterior one is adeno and the posterior one is neuro, right? So you have the various hormones of anterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary produces its own hormone. It does not depend on anything else. It has its own hormone producing cells, and it is producing all the hormones, right? Posterior pituitary, the neurohypophysis, as you can see, the point to remember here is that it stores and releases the hormone. It does not produce them. The hormones, they are actually being synthesized in the hypothalamus, and axonically they reach this neurohypophysis. So one basic thing you have to remember, that the hormones of anterior pituitary are produced by pituitary itself, whereas the hormones of neurohypophysis are not produced by neurohypophysis, but they are produced by hypothalamus. And neurohypophysis, what it will do is it will just store it and it will release whenever it is required. So it will not produce the hormone, right? So basically, coming back to your adenohypophysis producing different hormones, you have one hormone which we call as the growth hormone. As the name suggests, that it is causing you to grow, physical growth. I don't know how much you are growing mentally, but then the physical growth of the body which is there, that is under the control of this particular hormone called as growth hormone. So if you remember, we had seen the properties of the hormone, then there I had told okay, excess and less both will lead to a disease. So growth hormone also, if it is over secreted, it leads to gigantism. If it is less secreted, it leads to dwarfism. If it is over secreted in adults, the excess secretion, the hyper secretion, we call it as acromegaly. So here you have to remember those diseases. If it is secreted more in children, gigantism; less in children, dwarfism; more in adults, it is acromegaly. So you'll find that it will result in disfigurement, especially of your face. It leads to various complications. It may even lead to premature death. The problem with this is that you don't diagnose it early. What happens is that once you see the symptoms, probably you can find out that what is wrong with that person. But if this hormone becomes excess, you don't actually find out what is gone wrong. So therefore it is very hard to diagnose in the early stage. So this is a serious thing which can happen with this growth hormone. Anyways, you have another hormone called as prolactin, which is responsible for growth of mammary gland and secretion of milk from it. So it stimulates the mammary gland, and then mammary gland secretes or synthesizes milk. So active in females. The thyroid stimulating hormone TSH, as the name suggests, is stimulating the thyroid gland. So the synthesis and secretion of your thyroid gland for production of these thyroid hormones, that is under the control of pituitary. So it is like TSH will stimulate thyroid, and thyroid will what you call as produce thyroxine. So production of thyroxine is indirectly under the control of your pituitary. Then you have another ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. Right? You remember in your lower standard you studied there was this kidney. We have kidneys, and above the kidney there are these two cap-shaped structures, like which are called as the adrenal glands, also called as the suprarenal glands. So the outer portion of these adrenal glands, that is cortical region, that is stimulated. So synthesis and secretion of steroid hormones like glucocorticoid from the adrenal cortex. So adrenal glands outer area called as cortex. The inner one is called as the medulla. The outer one is called as the cortex. So this is actually secreting that steroid hormones like glucocorticoids. So it is under the control of your pituitary. So pituitary is controlling adrenal gland, and adrenal gland is then producing glucocorticoid. So glucocorticoid production is also under the control of your pituitary. Then you have your hormones which we come under class of gonadotropin. So gonadotropin, see these are tropic hormones. See, adrenocorticotropic hormone, gonadotropic hormone. This TSH is also, some books they call it as thyrotropin. When a particular hormone is actually controlling other gland for production of another hormone, like thyrotropin is controlling thyroid gland for production of hormone. Adrenocorticotropic hormone is controlling the production of adrenal gland hormones. Here gonadotropin is controlling the production of hormones by the gonads, the testis and the ovary, right? So these gonadotropins, we have two. One is FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and other is LH, the luteinizing hormone. So gonadotropin kitne type ke? Do. One is FSH, other is LH. FSH is what? Follicle stimulating hormone. LH is what? Luteinizing hormone, right? So these are affecting both in male as well as in female. So talking about your role of LH and FSH in males, you will find that in males this LH is controlling synthesis and secretion of androgens like your testosterone. So in testis it affects the production of this testosterone. FSH and these androgens then control spermatogenesis, that is formation of sperms, so formation of gametes. In female, this LH, the luteinizing hormone, is controlling ovulation. We know that in menstrual cycle, on around 14th day, there is the release of ovum from the ovary. I was about to say ovary from the ovum. No, release of ovum from the ovary. So that is called as ovulation, and that is brought about by your LH. So a fully mature follicle which is there, it releases that what you call as ovum, and then what remains is your corpus luteum. You know, so you have a Graafian follicle, it has an ovum. Now this LH acts on it, it releases the ovum, and that empty follicle which remains, that is called as corpus luteum, which we will study in some higher standard. It secretes progesterone, right? So that maintaining of that corpus luteum, that is the function of this LH. And in females, this FSH is controlling the growth and development of ovarian follicles. So formation of your ovum, you can say oogenesis. So basically you can say that oogenesis and why automatically